Hello. I was about to say it's Thursday, but it's not, it's Tuesday. And both of them begin with T. So, oops. Yes, it's been quite a day and it's still going. It's looking like it will be going for quite some time. Janine and I started the day early. We left the farm just after 6:30 to take the trailer to the dump to empty the contents. And we were about 5th in the queue because we're smart like that. I think we were there so early, the dump actually hadn't opened yet. Or should I say the transfer station, because it's very nice and shiny and bright. And we got rid of what we needed to in the trailer and then came home. And even at that time, it was kind of warm. But it's doing a very odd thing. It's been round about 87, but it's really quite oppressive. And when I was out to go out, and I got the call from the post office to go and to pick up the baby chicks, I got there and the sky, it was almost yellow in a very, very dull yellow, odd colour, and most peculiar. But the whole afternoon has just been overcast and really gloomy. And it has gone from being about 87 with high humidity, and it's going up to 93. I don't know why it's not getting cooler, but it certainly isn't feeling great at this precise moment in time. And I've got quite a lot to do, so I'm unimpressed. But hey ho, we're all going. And so we found some baby chicks, and obviously at this time of year, the stores around about don't have them in stock. And there's the two, Coco and Chanel, they're actually sitting on about 15 eggs each, and one of them is just refusing to move. And the other one is like, well, I'm joining you. And Sally's in there as well, but she sits on top of one of the chickens. So it's quite the little group. So we decided that given the fact that their eggs are definitely not going to hatch, we would find them some chicks. So these are day-old chicks. They're absolutely teeny tiny. They're very happy, and at the moment they're very healthy. And we put the two white bantam chickens in, Coco and Chanel. And the one who has been broody forever started pecking at the chicks. She just wasn't having it. She was absolutely horrified. In fact, I would suggest offended. So we had to take her out. So we then went and got the big fluffy chicken, who was our chick last year, and brought her in. So she was much better, but she's sort of like looking at them going, we're just running around all over the place. Now, what I was hoping was that instead of having to get a heat lamp out, that my chickens would step up and do the natural thing, considering they'd been sitting on eggs for quite some time. But no, they're just not playing the game. So we have the other white bantam in, and we've got our big fluffy chick. So I'm going to wait to see whether or not they settle and they allow the little chicks underneath them. And if they don't, later on this evening, I'll need to take them up to the house and deal with them up there. Honestly, I mean, seriously, I honestly thought this is going to be such an easy job. They've been sitting on eggs forever, obviously desperately waiting for them to hatch. And I give them day-old chickens, and they're like, yeah, no, not touching those things. Honest. Disappointed, to say the least. And I will say, don't say it to Carleen, but I'm stealing peas from her garden and I'm feeding them to Dimitri, and he absolutely adores them. I did also pick some and give them to Carleen to eat. I said, but make sure you give the outside parts, the pods, give them to the goats. So I think she drove up the driveway and was throwing them over for the goats because they love eating them. And the little bantams that are in the white chicken house, they actually have a few every evening as well. I was speaking with Janine, and I think it might be helpful if the bantams that are in the chicken house, I'm going to, I think they're of a size now that they can't get through the wire at where the little rabbit house is underneath the camera. But I think my problem is they fly all over the place. Excuse me. So I'm not sure I could keep the little stinkers contained because they're very much airborne. So, ugh, I get something in my throat, obviously. And not enough in that can to dislodge it. Oh, excuse me. Anyway, so that's the story so far with the little chicks. So they might be down in the barn. I might have to take them up to the house to accommodate them, but we shall wait and see. But fingers crossed the two adult chickens get the idea of exactly what they're supposed to be doing sooner rather than later. So, because that would be very helpful. All right, and Janine went out with 3 dogs today to do the job in Brentwood, and that went well. And then tomorrow, gosh, I can't remember where it is tomorrow, but there is a job tomorrow as well. And then I'm trying to think what I've got going. I'm trying to get morning chores done in very early, so I'm going to get up at 6 and hopefully be out by 6:30. And then I've got lots of barn switching going on here at the moment. So I'm moving Misty the mule and Alfie, who, this is Alfie's little fly boot. And you may ask why it's in here and not on Alfie. There was a very good reason for that. He pooped in it, in here. So I had to take it off and clean it. And I've just got to go and reattach it to his little foot. Obviously, he's a skilled pooper because he managed to get it in that hole. This is why we have to check the fly boots on a very regular basis, because they get up to all sorts of nonsense. And I just noticed over the weekend we have the dreaded, and I mean the dreaded, greenheads, and they've obviously appeared. They're a July thing, and they've appeared, and they're making their presence known. They're thoroughly miserable and most unpleasant, but such is life. And we just deal with it and be grateful that they only last for July, and then they saunter off again. The deer fly, which are the triangular ones, they are absolutely horrific as well. And I did take a very close-up picture of a fly, and it's one of the ones that doesn't just sort of like stick its little nose in, it sort of slices your skin. And I've got a really good picture of that, which I might post later on. It's like blooming heck. Terrible, terrible things. And in very sad news, the co-op had a sale on today with plants, and I bought some. So I have enlisted the help of my daughter, who seems to be able to keep plants alive. She's must be more of Nick than my side. So I am going to attempt to keep plants alive again and wish them luck. So it's not a good thing. But I did buy compost, because everybody likes to be lugging compost and heavy planters when it's really, really hot, because that sounds like a really great idea. So we'll wait and see how that goes. But I am desperately keen to try and keep things living. Nick's like, he rolls his eyes and he's like, oh dear. Anyway, not much, but I'm going to put my best effort in. So there. And I thought the guinea hens had passed away, and it was terribly, terribly, terribly quiet. And then I went out to feed the chickens at 6 this morning, and I'm going, you have some grain and you have some grain. And then they came out of the chicken house with a vengeance. So wherever they've been, they've come back. And they are so noisy. And they're just, you cannot catch these things for love nor money. So when they decide to go and take themselves off, they take themselves off, annoy everybody else living round about, and then they come back. So they're obviously reasonably safe. But I thought, crikey, I haven't seen them for a couple of days. Maybe something terrible's happened to them. But no, they're back with a vengeance, and lots of noise. So that's good. It's terribly unnerving, because when you're in the house, all you hear throughout the day is them absolutely cackling in their alert way. And it just sets your heart going, because I normally go out running and you know, to see what's going on. But it's like the boy that cried wolf. They do it all the time. So every time I run out, they're looking at me going like, what? And I'm like, well, what is it? And they're like, nothing. We just felt like it. So I've now got really lax. I'm like, oh, there go the guinea hens. They're obviously back, fine, and I ignore them. So they're terrible things. Terrible things. Anyway, so that's I think all of the news for the moment. We do have some quite exciting news, I think, on Thursday, but I'll wait to make sure that that's definitely happening on Thursday, because you know how it is, things change and don't always run to plan. That's just because that's life. And I'm going to have a lookie at the questions now. I hope there's questions, because otherwise I'll just sit and prattle on, and you know that. And I think that I saw in the weather that there was really bad weather forecast for Vermont, so I'm hoping that they're going to be A-okay. Oh, I wonder if it is smoke from Canadian wildfires. Ah, it was really heavy, so those must be some awful fires. That's terrible. I didn't realise there was fires in Canada either. I think that's how you spell Coco and Chanel, actually. Yes, I think you've got it. I can't stand it either. You know, I've got so many things that I actually really, really, really want to do. And every time I start, I go, yeah, I can't work at this level of intensity with this heat. I sit and think to myself, you know, I managed to just keep going in the winter, and I've always got little projects underway. And in this heat, I'm just like, let's just get the essentials done, and then go and find some air conditioning and sit in it. It's really pathetic. It's horrible. It's the one time of year that I dread, because I know I won't get anything done. Arthur, I don't know if he's having special treatment. I think he's getting ready to have his feet done on Friday. So Janine's been working with him, lifting his feet, because he's an absolute stinker. And we've had Arthur for quite some time now, and his feet and his legs have always been a very, very sensitive point for him. Probably because when Janine rescued him, his legs were bloodied. He did fly strike. Then when he came up to us, he did cellulitis. And I remember trying to treat him for cellulitis, which is really, it's a daily, sometimes twice a day job. And it's pretty intensive, but you really need to get on top of it. Otherwise it causes tremendous trouble. And I was treating him and actually changing the wraps on the cellulitis on his legs was lethal, because he would just strike out at you. So he's obviously, I presume she's probably working on that. They're getting their feet done on Goldy's on Friday morning, and then they're coming over to Meredith to do the animals on here. So there's quite a lot of things going on. Ooh, Cow Appreciation Day. Is that a kiss or a kill? You're supposed to give your cows a kill. It must be a kiss. I kiss cows on a regular basis, it's fine. And goats. And horses and mules. Oh yes, I've read about that. And I am taking appropriate action. So no lettuce or raspberry and other unwashed fruits for me. Thank you so very much. It's Aspen Hill, yes. Yeah, there's a lot of bugs at the moment. It's quite interesting though, because you can tell what stage you are in summer because of when certain bugs come out, and yeah, so we've hit deerfly, greenhead season, and means we're halfway through summer. So there, which is an absolute relief to me. Yes, you should be offering your condolences to the plants in advance, and in the vague hope that I actually managed to pull it out the bag and keep them living. And you know, I think sometimes I either forget about them and I don't water them, and sometimes I like overwater them. So I don't think there's any happy medium with me. It's terrible. But I think Sophie's going to supervise me because she just thinks it's ridiculous that I can't keep plants alive. Which it is really. So yeah, I'm going to try my very best though. I know, look, nail polish, ta-da! My little girl took me must have been last Thursday. Gosh, that means nail polish has stayed on my nails since Thursday. That's amazing. Highly recommend it then if it can stick on through all the nonsense I get up to. I've been mucking barns and lots of things. No, Nick is not going to get any new ducklings at the moment. So it's really interesting. The ticks have been really absolutely atrocious. And my dogs on Goldies, we were taking ticks off them on a daily basis. And we were just doing tick checks on ourselves and the dogs. There are very few ticks on the animals on Meredith, which is quite surprising considering we're surrounded by deer and, you know, all sorts of wildlife in the same way that Goldies is. But I think the difference we maybe have here is that ours are all contained within the fields, and there's so much other grazing for the deer, etc. So the deer don't go in our paddocks. And you know, I think I've got so many animals in the paddocks. I don't think anything else bothers coming in. I don't think the mice come in, etc. So I don't know why we've done so well. I do have my quarantine field is the across the road field, and sometimes at this time of year I give up all hope because it's a paddock where you see coyotes inside the paddock, you see deer within the paddock, and then you put your animals out and you're like, and there's a tick and there's another tick, and sometimes it's bad. Now I do think the tick level is very high this year, and it was high. I mean, we were still finding ticks in January, which was incredible because there was ice everywhere. But I think we've been very lucky in Meredith, but I know that my dogs pick them up all the time. I'm not sure Janine has too many problems with the equine on Goldies though. So yeah, so they seem to be fine. Although, let's face it, two of them are not staying on the farm. Honestly, Chester and Sunshine, what a couple of monkeys. When I went to get them, Chester was standing there and he was sort of like going from one foot to the other, and he was going, oh my goodness, oh my goodness, oh my goodness. And Sunshine looked at me and she went, what took you? I've been standing here for ages. And I'm like, well, probably because I went to the last place you were seen, which was not here. And I got there and there was 3 police officers, a fire officer and animal control. And Chester's like, thank God you're here. He says, I think we're totally lost. This is horrific. And he's just such a sweetheart. And he was like, are we going home now? Are we? Promise? I was like, yes, we're going home. So walking home, she's away out front with the police officer, and Chester's lagging behind, having a nosy all the way down the road. There's a police car at the back, with one at the front with flashing lights on, one at the back with flashing lights on, and all the traffic's held back because we were on the 97. And I'm like, Chester, we need to speed it up a little bit. And he's like, yes, but there's so much to see. And I'm like, oh my very goodness. attention span of a gnat, Chester, when he gets going. So that was a very interesting start to Sunday morning. Yeah. And that's my second trip in a police car. And can I tell you, the first one was last year when the police came to pick me up because they had to show me where Murphy had disappeared off to. And I said to the man, this is the first time I've ever been in a police car. And he was like, oh, excellent. So this time I got he put me in the front. But because there was 2 police officers, I got put in the back. And as we were coming down, Sophie had gone to the end of the drive to see if she could come and help me with the horses. And as we were going down, we met her at the bottom of the driveway, and the police officer put the window down in the back. And I went, Sophie, she went, oh, why are you in there? And I said, because they're giving me a little lift to go and get my car. The police were absolutely fantastic. And she's like, okay. And the police officer said to her, do you want to go on the other side? And she said, no, I'm fine, thanks. So that was a very exciting start to the day. But we're so fortunate that we have such considerate police. And there was also 2 people, a gentleman and a lady, and they had actually come across them on the 97. And where they were found was actually, they had herded them left down this side street, and the next left-hand turn was onto the 95. So it was very fortunate. He said they were heading that way. He said, but I steered them that way with the truck. And I said, thank you so very much. And so, there's so many people who will actually help, not just the emergency services. So we have been very lucky and are very, very grateful. And apparently, according to Janine, Chester and Sunshine were absolutely exhausted, which is good because so was I. Oh, hand sanitizers don't work. Okay, good to know. Thank you. Yeah, it seems that there is very bad weather in the majority of the country. Even Alaska's hot. Hello, little love. Hello. So the funny thing is, fly spray works to a degree, and then it just doesn't. And there's certain flies, the greenheads don't seem to be bothered with it at all. So you can sit and spray away. The natural fly sprays sometimes are more effective than the other ones. And the other ones are sometimes just absolutely useless. It's very, very difficult. I haven't come across anything that is surefire spray that you put on and everybody's A-OK. And some of them only work for, the first initial spraying. So it's a really tricky one. There's no rhyme nor reason nor successful route for fly spray. And sometimes spraying the legs, it gives them some relief for a period of time, because one of the things you have to remember is it's not just the fact that they nibble on their legs, it's also the fact that they stamp. And when they stamp, it sometimes splits hooves and causes them to crack, etc. So, yeah, it's not much fun, no. How much longer I don't know. Yes, that must be these wildfires. I know. That's what I was saying to myself, halfway through summer. And it's funny because I said to Janine, I said, we must be nearly coming to the end of the summer. And she said, oh gosh, I hope not. And I'm like, are you mad? Ugh. Yeah, I know, it's very difficult. Fortunately, we've got peas in the garden for the animals and other bits and pieces that people are growing. I obviously am not growing anything because I'd kill it. So Arthur doesn't like, and this is another problem as well, the animals, unless they're trained to fly spray, they don't like being sprayed. They just don't like it. It's like some animals don't like being hosed off, and it's for their own good, and sometimes they just don't like it. It's the same thing with fly spray. I've got some animals that stand there and say, do you want me to turn around so you can do the other side? And I'm like, yes, please, why don't you? And some animals say, is that a fly spray bottle in your hand? And I'm like, it might be. And they're like, well, we're not touching that. I have a fly spray lotion, or fly lotion that I put on faces. It's in a cream, and that works okay. And sometimes with some of the animals I just can't get anything on, I spray it on a cloth and then rub it on. And there's days that you've just fly sprayed everybody appropriately and then they're covered in swarms of flies. It's no rhyme, no reason. It's just the way it goes. But yes, she will be trying to get Arthur's legs done. And you can't, we don't hobble the donkeys because there's a lot of different, what we try to do is work with them in a very holistic way so that we get them to a stage where they accept specific handling, particularly lifting their feet and accepting blanketing, halters, lead ropes, etc. It just takes a period of time. The difficulty we have when working with rescue animals is you don't know how they've been handled before. Now, Arthur's legs were in a terrible mess. In fact, he was under vet care for 2 months down in South Carolina before he came up with Janine. And so he's obviously had a very unpleasant experience to get him into the state that he was before he hit the auction. And then the remedial work that was done with him afterwards was a daily basis, and he really absolutely hated it. What we do not do is tie their two hind legs together in an emergency, and when we do have to get the animals working, we sometimes lift a front leg and lift it up because they cannot kick if they only have 3 legs on the ground. We prefer not to do that. That's in we're gushing blood and we just need to get in there and get it sorted. We prefer to try and work with them so that it becomes a more natural and less upsetting process. Some of the animals, it's just the way they are. And I think this is one of the importances of working, when you have young animals, working with them so that they think it's normal to have their feet lifted. We used to lift the foals, we'd lift their foot up and we'd tap so to mimic, sort of like work round with a farrier so that they get used to the vibration on their foot being lifted up, and it was just kind of normal. It wasn't a good production. So it's a tricky one. But so of course, when you bring in rescue, you never know what they've experienced, and a lot of the animals are very wary of people, let alone having their feet done. So that's where we get into these difficulties. Well, I don't know how long they were out, but I got the phone call at 7:30 on Sunday morning, and I left within about 10 minutes. To go and get them. I went to the first place and they weren't there, so I called the police and animal control, and they sent me a picture and said, are these your horses? And I was like, yes, they are. They're like, well, they're now down here. So I left to get them, and then I think we got home about 8:30. They were just over a mile down the road, so they can travel when it suits them. Oh, I could take a cow to Chick-fil-A. That would sort them. Yeah, I know. Well, Fernanda, let's face it, I have problems keeping any plants looking good, so this heat is not helping. You're quite right. That's a good excuse. So there's so many things, and you see them all on Facebook and you see them online. There's this little metal disc, apparently it repels ticks and fleas. This collar works, and I don't know. I really don't know. I think sometimes it's the luck of the draw. I absolutely hate putting Frontline on my dogs. I would rather brush them and make sure that the ticks were out. And I always worry about things that transfer into the blood system. And we try to keep everything as natural as possible. It's a really, there's a time and a place for, you just have to bring out the big guns and get chemicals in. When we have cellulitis, I hand apply liquid ivermectin. And that's what we do. We use ivermectin for specific worming. You have to be we try and be as careful as possible. We don't use chemicals on the grounds. So we don't use any, anything along the lines of Roundup or etc. on the ground. Everything's kept as natural as possible, so the pastures are all clear. But when it comes to the animals, it depends on the severity of the problem that we're dealing with. We certainly don't say, oh, we're totally and utterly chemical free, because everything is a chemical, let's face it. And secondly, you've got to make sure that everything's safe and to the best of your ability. So we try and keep it all as natural as possible. If we can't do that, then we move on to the big guns. And sometimes if it's deemed to be to the benefit of the animal, that's what we do. So it's like, we try not to overuse antibiotics, but, sometimes you need to head things off at the pass and make sure that they're all A-okay. So we do use our discretion, though. Yeah, it was really interesting, Nancy, that you mentioned that. I remember my father telling me a story about he'd been in a medical conference in Europe somewhere, can't remember the country, and they'd had a large meal. Everybody, all the doctors that had been at the conference, they were all at this meal, and he said that so many of them fell ill with a sickness and diarrhea bug. And he said it was unbelievable. He said, so they tried to work out what they'd eaten the night before that had caused it. And of course they'd had prawn cocktail, which I think you would call shrimp cocktail here. And everybody's like, I bet you it was the prawns or the shrimp. Because seafood, obviously, in a big venue, and with serving time, it very often has time to heat up, get itself going and cause trouble. So everybody was like, yeah, it must have been the prawns. And then it turned out that couldn't have been the prawns, because some people hadn't had the prawns. They'd had a starter salad and they were sick. And turned out it was the lettuce, and the lettuce had caused everybody to be sick because the lettuce had been in the salad and had also been in as a base for the prawn cocktail. So we all sit and think, oh, undercooked meat, under this, under that. It turns out sometimes it's the salad, and it's what we're watering it with, and not cleaning it, and inappropriate handling. So these are very big lessons to learn. I've had Lyme disease and it is absolutely horrific. And in fact, it was probably one of the most difficult times of my life, believe it or not. I had Lyme and I went to my doctor initially feeling unwell, and she said there was nothing wrong with me, blah, 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 blah. And I returned about 3 months later. I'd had to stop driving because I was driving the car and couldn't remember how I'd managed to get a certain distance down the road. It was absolutely horrific. It would just black out. I was still driving, no problem at all. And then I ended up in hospital because I was a heart attack suspect. So my neighbour drove me down. I went to see my neighbour. I said, I really don't feel well. I said, my doctor's suggesting I go to ER. And she took one look at me and she's like, you look absolutely horrific. She said, get in the car, we're going. So we went all the way down to Lawrence General, who were absolutely fantastic. They hooked me up and ran all sorts of tests. And they said, you know, your heart's actually functioning and you haven't had a heart attack. It doesn't look like you're going to have a heart attack. And I said, so what is this? Because I presented, I was clammy, I was sheet white, was in a mess. And they said, we don't know. And they said, we wonder if it's maybe a virus and it'll go. So I duly went home and still felt absolutely terrible. And I had another episode where I'd been at the doctor and they decided it looked like I was a heart attack waiting to happen. And they sent me away for tests and they were like, yeah, your heart's actually functioning just fine. We think you've got a virus. And I said, yes, but everybody keeps telling me I've got a virus. What virus have I got? And eventually I made an appointment to go to the doctor. At this point, I couldn't drive any longer and I couldn't stay awake. And I would, all of a sudden, and I don't sleep unless I'm in my bed. And Nick would be on a conference call and he'd be like, that's my wife snoring. I would just have sat down and fallen asleep. Totally and utterly unlike me. He said it was, I could barely stay awake. It was horrific. And I went to the doctor. And I walked in and she said, oh, you look really ill. And I said, and my dogs had just been diagnosed with Lyme, untreated, I might add. And I said, is there any way I've got Lyme? And she went, oh, probably not. And I was like, I said, well, my 2 dogs have had Lyme. Right, she said, I'll test you. She said, I think you're probably more likely to have fast onset MS or a brain tumour. At which point I went, well, that's good to know. So I was like, right. And I phoned my father after I came out. And my son had to drive me everywhere. I used to have to drop Sophie off at school. He would drive, I'd sit in the car and would drop her off because I just couldn't trust myself to drive. So I'd stop driving. And it turned out I had Lyme and it was in the base of my brain and in my heart. And that's why I had all these really awful symptoms. It took me over 6 months to start getting on top of it, but the tiredness has taken years to go. So I am very, very, very worried about ticks and not only, and I had Borrelia with anaplasmosis, but now there's all these other tick-borne diseases that are kicking around. So I'm just like, this is so not good at all. And it's definitely an infection to be, or a virus to be reckoned with. Not pleasant. So paranoid about that actually. No, the ticks don't die in the cold weather. That's something that we have always believed. What they do is they go down into the leaf litter and they burrow down and they're there. So they don't die off at all. So they're ready to go as soon as they get the next opportunity. And I had one out on in January. So that wasn't fun. So they're always there. It's just that they're not up on the surface, I think. Little stinkers. Well, the problem was this year we definitely were cold enough to have killed the ticks, but the ticks are, what the vet said to me is that they just go deeper down, at which point they don't get killed off by the cold, unfortunately. So, no, the horses went out the back of Goldy's. They took out a fence, little stinkers. Ooh, suntan lotion keeps insects off you. I can't keep suntan lotion on. That's my problem. Right. Yeah, it is tough. I do hear from Wallace. I'm actually hoping Wallace will come out and get on my horse for me sooner rather than later. I saw Wallace a little while ago, actually. Yeah, that's exactly right. Exactly the same as puppies, all that handling. It's good stuff. I know. As long as he doesn't poop in Chick-fil-A, that would be a problem. Yeah, I actually use, at the beginning of the fly season, I use lemongrass in a spray bottle, and I spray that inside of the barns. Yes, he was. Cow onesies. Elvis, you would take him to the store. Oh dear. Yeah, I'm scared of Lime as well. It's either Coco or Chanel, and I'm not 100% sure. I think he put the bench back up, did he not? I hope. Oh, right. So I will be back on Thursday. I'm hoping it's a wee bit cooler. Probably not, though. And I hope you have a lovely evening. Thank you so very much for joining me. And enjoy the next couple of days. Thank you again. Bye-bye.